Hi, welcome to the DHAPR wagonworks, the latest BRM project layout I've been building in recent issues. I thought it'd be fun to give you a little walk around of the layout and show you some of the features from different angles to those that we've seen on the page. Starting with the basics, the wagonworks is designed around the idea that people have got odd bits of stock, one or two wagons, and they need a purpose for them. You're not going to build a block train or buy lots of things. You just want to shuffle a few wagons around, and you need a good reason for doing that. Well, this wagonworks takes in filthy wagons like this one that are obviously well past their prime, and it turns them out as nice clean wagons like this. Now, these wagonworks do actually exist, so there is a proper prototype for this, and that is really handy for us, but it's also really handy for those who want to build a micro layout like this one. If you've not got a lot of space, or you simply want to try something different, perhaps a different scale, a different era, micro layouts are something that I'm always a big fan of. The great thing about it is, and this was especially important for me, bearing in mind the deadline I was working to get it to Ali Pali, they don't take a huge amount of time to build, nor do they take a huge amount of outlay. The most expensive thing on this is the track, which I've had to buy in new. The baseboards, they're simply plywood, and the buildings are various kits, but some of the stuff I've had kicking around already. This is my, as you can see, this well-worn controller is one I've had for many years. It's powered by a transformer I've probably had for at least a couple of decades. So not only is this an opportunity to build a new layout, it's a great way of using up the stocks of materials that you've probably got already. And don't tell me you haven't got cupboards with bits and kits and stuff in that you haven't got a use for right now, because I won't believe you. The layout is deliberately simple. The track plan involves a three-way point, which is the first time we've used one of those on a BRM project layout, but it also makes use of some cassettes. In this case, the DCC Concepts MPD units. Now, these are aluminium units that you can run a train on, pick the train up and move it around. And in this case, what I do is I've got a shelf at the back which has got these sat on it, and I can run my loco off, move the cassette across, and then run it back onto the layout. So effectively, I've done what is a very classic micro layout cheat and used the fiddle yard as one end of the run round loop. If I tried to put track on there, the layout would have needed to be probably another 2 to 3 feet longer, and I simply didn't have the space for that one. So I've used that classic cheat. The layout itself is pretty conventional actually. We've got a little control panel out the front here. The layout is operated from the front. I'm assuming that at home you would have this sort of thing sat on a shelf or atop of a bookcase, and you could just use it for shuffling the odd wagon around. When you just fancied moving a train, or heaven forbid you've bought a brand new locomotive and you want to test it, well, that's great for this. All the points are operated by push buttons that are operating Pico point motors underneath the layout. Ballasting is limestone ballast held in place with PVA, and you'll have seen in some of the construction articles I've written how I've done some of the details. The big building is a Gauge Master Ford Hampton locomotive depot. Now it's a fairly simple plastic kit, but I've detailed the inside of it, so we've got something to look at. We've got a scale model scenery porter cabin, and also some of their shipping containers, which I rescued from an old diorama. You know, waste not, want not. You recycle them onto there. And there's also a lot of 3D printed parts, which I've shown you in previous videos. The layout's so small that we don't even need an awful lot of illumination. When you're at a show, you really do need light on your stand, and so I've gone nothing more sophisticated than a desk lamp in this instance, because, well, to be honest, I couldn't bother to make a lighting rig for it, and I didn't need one with this smaller layout. I think illumination is really important though, because illuminating your modelling really makes it look better. That's quite a handy exhibition hint, basically. When you look at a layout at a show, part of the reason it looks great is because it's quite brightly lit. The other handy hint from a show is that it sounds really quiet because you're in a big hall full of people absorbing the sound. So there is a benefit to taking these things to shows. However, this would make an ideal little home layout. So let's have a little walk around. Along the front, as I say, classic porter cabin. The van is an Oxford diecast van, which I have just put some transfers on because I wanted to brand it. They are print your own transfers, print your own white transfers, and I've used the same on the 03. I'm assuming that our wagonworks are a bit of a cheapskate, and so what they do is they just whack a bit of vinyl on things rather than doing a full repaint. That assumption makes my life a lot easier because printing off a few transfers, putting them on there and rebranding things is really quick and easy. The trick with a micro layout to bring it alive is to have plenty of junk in corners, lots of detail, and that's something I really enjoy. Of all the bits of like model railway building, certainly putting on those little bits and pieces that bring your layout alive is my favourite part of the hobby. However, one of the things I've been able to do with this that is relatively unusual is I've been able to put some extra lights on it. Let me turn off the lights and demonstrate. You can see inside the shed illuminates, and so do the yard lights. So this layout can operate after dark, which is just a nice little touch and something I'm quite proud of. You've got couple of yard lights which I must admit I bought second hand, and they've got very traditional grain of wheat bulbs in. There's LED lights in the shed and even an LED in the porter cabin. Handily, the porter cabin's got grills on, so you can't see that there's no interior detail in there, but you can see that there's some lights. I thought it'd be quite a good idea to use 3-link or screw couplings on this layout, and this is handy because you've got a little layout, so it shouldn't be too much trouble to use them. I've got a pole with a hook on the end of it, and most importantly a light, and all I have to do is fish around between loco and wagon, and hopefully I can couple them up. There we go. I will say this does take a bit of practice, and also, if you're old like me, you do need to put your reading glasses on, otherwise you can't focus on what you're doing down there. So there we have it. This is DHAPR Wagonworks. It may be small, but it was fun to build and it's quite fun to operate. There's always plenty you can do. No model railway is ever finished, let's be honest, and I can always put a bit more detail on there, and there's always space for more trains. That's the important thing. However, I hope you've enjoyed this, and hope if you're thinking to yourself, I haven't got space for a model railway, looking at the Wagonworks makes you think again, so you can really get into and enjoy your hobby. Happy modelling.